guys, it's Miss Simpson, and it is time for reading today. We have been working a lot this week on characters. So, character traits was on Tuesday, character change was yesterday, and today we're going to talk about something called characterization. Characterization is literally just the creation of a fictional character. So, when an author writes books, they are creating characters. Sometimes those characters are fantasy characters and they're not real. Sometimes they are real and they are very realistic, but they do this by portraying to you different character traits. And they do this by making character change and having the characters learn something. All of these things contribute to the character's characterization. And the authors give them traits and changes to develop these characters. So let's talk about what is characterization. You guys get questions about characterization on your STAR test all the time and on any passages that you do for reading. And the reason that you do is because they want to know, do you see the development of the characters? Do you see how the events and the story are impacting those characters? Do you see how these characters are changing? Those are all things about characterization. So when I think about characterization, I think of the acronym STEAL. And you don't necessarily have to memorize that. I just want you, when you're reading, to really focus on the characters. How are they changing? What are they like? Are they bossy? Are they rude? Are they energetic, enthusiastic, happy? What are they? How are they feeling? Happy, sad? Also, how are they changing? What lessons are those characters learning? How are the events in the story impacting those characters? So we're thinking about, what does the character say? What they actually say out loud in the story. That's the dialogue. That's one way that an author creates a character. Just by the way that they talk. You can tell if they're rude. You can tell if they're nice. You can tell if they're energetic, if they're a very good person by all of the things that they say. Maybe they are optimistic, or maybe they're bossy or thoughtful or independent. And we get a lot of that from just the things that they say in the story, the dialogue. We get what a character thinks. Sometimes we don't get what the character says out loud. So in our book, How to Steal a Dog, Georgina is our narrator here. I think, right? Yes, there we go. Sorry. Georgina is our narrator here. So it's in first person point of view, right? So we have our narrator and she is telling us things that are happening and she's going through this internal struggle. Should I steal the dog? Should I not steal the dog? Is this a good idea to steal the dog? Am I going to get in trouble? She doesn't say anything out loud to anybody and nobody really knows that she's going through this in her brain, but she is going through things in her mind. And so authors do that to develop this character. At first, I kind of thought Georgina was stingy. She had a lot of an attitude. She was kind of not snobby. That's not really the word I'm looking for. Kind of mean, careless, selfish. I thought that at the beginning, but now that she's starting to change, like we did yesterday, our character change, she's starting to change and grow and shift with the events in the story. And she's starting to become more sensitive. She seems protective almost. She kind of seems smart and thoughtful. She's going for a different idea. And that is because her internal thoughts are portraying. And I know that by the way that she's thinking. The next thing is effects. The effects on other characters or on them. So think about, how is this character affecting her mom? Authors show you the ways other characters act towards them to show you what a character is and how they create that character. So her mom, she talks really mean to her mom. She has a lot of attitude with her mom. She's not very respectful to her mom. And so they're creating this character of Georgina to you by the way that she's treating her mom, the way she treats Carmela, the way that she treats Mookie, even her brother Toby, Luann, her best friend. That is another way that she's being portrayed in this book by the way she's affecting the characters around her. Also by the actions, the characters, the way that they act physically, mentally, and emotionally. Like if she's a very, I would say, emotional character, the second her mom messes up, she's quick to jump on her mom and be mean to her mom, which is affecting her mom. She acts really quick. When she stole that dog, it was a very quick decision. She stole it, she ran off, and she didn't think about all of the things. Also, the way that the character looks, their physical appearance, body language, and facial expressions. That's another way that we can create characters. And they do this all in movies and TV shows too. So you see what the character says. Sometimes you even can tell what the character's thinking. Sometimes there's a narrator that tells you what the character thinks. The way that the character affects other characters or does something to other characters, the actions that they do, the actions are a big thing in movies and TV shows because we don't get a whole lot of what they think. Also, how a character looks makes you think a certain thing too. So, like, for example, Mookie has some fingers missing. He is kind of scruffy. It said he has some teeth missing, some gold teeth in. That paints a picture in your brain of how Mookie looks and has an effect on what you think about Mookie and who you think he is, the way that he talks too. Adding these elements to your writing even gives a clear picture of the character. So the way that you're telling me what the character says, thinks, affects their actions, the way that they look, it develops a character. And so I am doing this lesson because on Monday, I had you write a little story about Willie, how Willie views Georgina and all of those things. So we're going to write one together-ish because you guys are, this is a video, but we're going to write one together today to kind of give you an idea of what I was looking like. I wanted you to develop that character. Think about that character. How would he feel right now? What would he act like? How would he sound? What would he be thinking? What are some of the effects on the other characters that he had? Maybe actions that he did, the way that he looks. All of those is going to develop Willie as a character. Right now, we don't know much about Willie other than he's a cute dog because Willie doesn't talk. But what is Willie thinking during all of this? Is he scared? Is he upset? Is he happy? Is he trying to make Georgina happy? Why did he go with Georgina? Why did he let Georgina steal him? We can always look at books from different perspectives. And so we are going to kind of write a different perspective together today after we read chapter 19. So we're going to read chapter 19. While I'm reading chapter 19, I want you to think about, and I'm not going to show you the pages today. I'm just going to put this up on the board so that while I'm reading, you can look over this and see, how is the character being developed in this chapter? What are they saying, thinking? What are some effects they have? What are their actions? And is it saying anything about how they look? Their facial expressions? Are they shocked? And see if we get any more character development today. What are the traits that they're having? Are any of the characters changing anymore? I'm going to ask you and pause and stop periodically throughout this chapter so that you can have some think time and be thinking about the characters. I'm going to ask you some questions about the characters, and then we're going to write a short little thing together. All right, so y'all ready? All right. I stare up at the stained ceiling tiles of the school's nurse's office, trying to make my stomach settle down. For once, I hadn't lied to Mr. White. I really did have a stomach ache. I'd had one ever since I'd left Carmela's yesterday. I'd left her house and gone on back to the car. I knew I should have gone over there and taken care of Willie, but I didn't. I guess I was hoping Mookie would share his liver pudding again. When Mama and Toby came back, I pretended like I was doing my homework, but I wasn't. I was writing one word over and over and over. Willie, 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 Willie. And then after Mama fell asleep, I didn't tell Toby that Carmela was getting the reward money from her Uncle Haywood. I didn't say that now it was the time to take Willie back and get that money. I kept it all inside me where my aching stomach was. Finally, I took out my How to Steal a Dog notes. I read all the way through them, starting with step 1, find a dog, and ending with step 7, and the part about stirring and stinking. I turned to a clean page, and wrote April 28th, and then I added, step 8, if you want to, you can take the dog back and tell the owner that you don't want the reward money after all. Ding, 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 character change. She's thinking that she's going to give Carmela Willie back and not even take the money. After everything that she did, everything that she's gone through, all the struggles that she's had in her brain. Are you as shocked as I am? I'm pretty shocked. Okay, let's keep going. Here's what will happen if you decide to do that. The owner, number one, will be really happy and she can give the money back to her Uncle Haywood. Number two, the dog will be happy because he's back home where he belongs instead of on that nasty porch. Number three, you'll be happy, excuse me, guys, because you won't feel bad about stealing a dog, even though you still live in a car. Number four, when you stop stirring, it will stop stinking. Or you can take the dog back and get the reward money like you planned. That is a decision you will have to make. Let's pause. Before all of this happened, she was not going to give the dog back. She was going to wait until that reward money came in. She needs that money. Now this is the first time I've heard her say, well, maybe we don't need the reward money. Maybe I can just give the dog back just out of the goodness of my heart. That's a big change for Georgina. Let's keep going. I drew little tiny paw prints all around the edges of the page before I closed my notebook and put it away. And now here I was in the nurse's office, staring up at those ceiling tiles with my stomach aching like anything. When the bell rang, I told the nurse I felt much better, even though I didn't, and I made my way through the pushing, shoving kids in the hall. Outside, I found Toby, and we headed over to the old house. The whole way there, Toby kept jabbering on about stupid stuff, like how his teacher had hollered at him for doing math with a pen and how some kid's gerbil got loose and went under the radiator. As usual, he was lagging behind, but I hurried on ahead. I needed to get to Willie fast. I needed to snatch him up and hug him, and then maybe my stomach ache would go away. As we hurried up the gravel road, my thoughts turned to Mookie. I sure hoped he was gone. I didn't need this crazy talk that made me feel so squirmy all the time. When we got to the house, I left my backpack by the road and pushed my way through the bushes towards the back. I rounded the corner, and the first thing I noticed was that Mookie's big blue tarp was gone. The little clearing where his sleeping bag had been was empty. Just a pile of blackened wood and an empty soda can. Then suddenly, it hit me. Silence. Total silence. No happy little hello bark from Willie. I ran over to the back porch and I yanked open the rickety door and wanted to die right then and there. Willie was gone. Okay, pause. Oh my gosh! Willie's gone. Willie's gone. Some of you predicted this. You were like, okay, I know Willie's going to be gone. Mookie's going to take him, or he's going to run away. He's going to get lost. You predicted this, and you must have been right. Oh my gosh, what is she going to do? What do you think she's going to do? What would you do in this situation? Let's keep going. I must have looked like a crazy person racing around that little dirt yard, pushing aside the weeds and the bushes and hollering Willie's name. Toby kept saying, what's wrong, Georgina? And what happened, Georgina? And then he started bawling about Willie being gone, and I hollered at him to shut up. I ran to the edge of the wood and called Willie's name till my throat ached. The quiet that came back to me felt solid and mean, like a slap across the face. I hurried back out to the road, not even caring about the briars that were snagging my clothes and scratching my arms. I ran up one side of the road and down the other, peering through the trees and calling Willie's name. Finally, I stopped and I held my aching sides, trying to catch my breath. Then I felt Toby punch me in the arm. Willie's gone, he hollered. And it's all your fault. He looked all wide-eyed and scared. My fault? Yeah. Toby stomped back up the road toward the house. I ran after him and yanked the back of his t-shirt to make him stop. It's Mookie's fault, I said. He took Willie. I know he did. Toby's eyebrows squeezed together. Mookie took Willie? I nodded. I bet anything he did, I said. He's crazy. What are you going to do? I sat on the side of the road and put my head down on my knees. What were we going to do? I didn't have one single idea. Then just when I was wishing that gravel road would just open up and swallow me whole, I heard the chinga-chinga of a bike bell. I looked up and I saw the best sight I'd ever seen in all my born days. Mookie was pedaling his rusty old bicycle towards us, and trotting along beside him was Willie, his string leash tied to the handlebars of the bike. I jumped up and raced towards them. Mookie stopped the bike, and I scooped Willie up in my arms and buried my face in his warm fur, and then I felt a wave of mad sweep over me. Why'd you take Willie? I hollered at Mookie. Take Willie? Mookie's eyebrow shot up. Well, if that don't put pepper in the gumbo, he said. What's that mean? I glared at him. I wasn't in the mood for his crazy talk. Means you better slow your mouth down before you start coming out with such as that, he said. I pressed my face against Willie, his hair all matted with mud, and he smelled awful. For your information, Missy, I was clear on over there by the shopping center when that dog of yours came running up behind me. Oh, I said. I knew I should have said more. I should have said I'm sorry. I should have said this dog's not mine. I should have said I stole this dog, but now I'm going to take him back. But I finally managed to lift my head and look at Mookie. Then thanks for bringing him back, I said. I wanted to say that's okay. I wanted Mookie to say that's okay, but he didn't. He just nodded. I'd forgotten all about Toby until he suddenly said to Mookie, "Are you leaving?" Mookie nodded again. "I am," he said. He untied Willie's string leash and tossed it to me, and then he turned his bike around and pedaled off up the road away from us, leaving a wobbly tire track in the dusty road behind him. And in that instant, I knew I'd been wrong about Mookie. Well, maybe not totally wrong. He was kind of crazy, but I guess he was nice too, and smart, and someone who leaves a good trail behind him. "Mookie!" I called after him. "Did you fix our car?" But he just kept pedaling away from us. Then right before he rounded the curve and disappeared from sight, he gave a little wave with his three-fingered hand. Suddenly the woods became quieter than they ever had before. Not a bird chirping, not a leaf rustling, just silence. "What do we do now?" Toby said. I looked at Willie, and he cocked his head at me and made me smile. "We take Willie home," I said. "When?" "Tomorrow." "Yes!" Toby pumped his fist in the air. "Then we get the money, right, Georgina?" But I didn't answer. I just hugged Willie. That's the end of chapter 19. Do you think she's going to take the money? If she takes the money, what's going to happen? Is she not going to take the money? Is she going to tell Carmela that she stole the dog? What in the world is going to happen to Georgina? What is she going to do? She's kind of in a pickle here. So, really quickly, we are just going to type an example of what I was kind of looking for that first day. And it's okay that you didn't know and that some of you did great and some of you were struggling with this. But I want to type a little bit of and work together as much as we can to do the little thing where I said, tell me about Willie from Georgina's perspective. Or no, tell me about Georgina from Willie's perspective and just tell me about what's happening. Pretend you're Willie. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you how I would create a character. I'm going to create a fictional character, Willie, in my writing using that steal strategy. I'm thinking to myself, what are they saying, thinking? What effects are they having? Actions, looks. I'm going to do it based off of this chapter. I'm not going to do the whole book because that would take me forever, but I'm going to do this chapter. So I'm going to think at the beginning of the chapter, what could Willie have been doing? So I'm going to start off with him sitting at the house. So I was sitting at the house, the old nasty house on that awful porch, when I noticed something. My leash that Georgina tied me on was loose. I tugged and tugged, and finally I was free. So once Willie got free, what do you think he did? So this part right here is him thinking. He hasn't said anything yet. He's thinking. So here I'm going to add some actions that tell you a little bit more about Willie. I tugged and tugged, and finally I was free. I took off running out towards Carmela's house because I just want to go home. On my way, I passed the grocery store where I saw Mookie on his bicycle. I'm going to stop. So let's read what we have so far. I was sitting on the old nasty house on that awful porch when I noticed something. My leash that Georgina tied me on was loose. I tugged and tugged, and finally I was free. I took off running toward Carmela's house because I just want to go home. On my way, I passed the grocery store where I saw Mookie on his bicycle. Bark, bark. I barked at him. We're going to get funny here. I barked at him because if I talked, because if I talked, he would totally freak out. So there we go. There's some dialogue. I have some actions. I have some things that he's saying, he's thinking. Now we're going to see how he's affecting Mookie and a little bit of how he looks here in just a minute. But affecting Mookie. Mookie looked at me like I was crazy and immediately grabbed my leash. Darn it, I thought. There, there goes my freedom. On our way back to the old rotten house, Mookie gave me some more sardines. I just really miss my dog food and perfect backyard. So here are some things that he was doing to Mookie. Mookie's giving him, there goes my freedom on our way back home. Mookie is having an effect on Mookie, or Willie is having an effect on Mookie because he looked at me like I was crazy and immediately grabbed my leash. Mookie kept talking and talking about how he thinks that Georgina stole me. Bark, bark, I said again. I was trying to tell him that he was right. Georgina did steal me, but he wasn't listening. When we finally arrived to the old house, I saw Georgina and Toby. She picked me up, and here's how he looks. She picked me up and stared at me for a while. I must look and smell awful because her face scrunched up and she started coughing. After she put me down, I noticed all the mud on her shirt. If she would just take me back, none of this would have happened. As we watched Mookie ride his bike away, I knew this was the last time I would see him. Hopefully, I will get to go home tomorrow. Okay, so that was me writing about a page from Willie's perspective. I've wrote only on this chapter about what's going on. So yes, all of those things, I mean, I made some stuff up. Some of this stuff might not have happened, but I made some things up. Most of the things followed along with the plot of the chapter. What happened? Well, yes, what happened was he saw Mookie at the grocery store. That was said in our chapter. And he said that he got his leash and he brought him back to the house. I just had to add some things to create that character of Willie. Now, did I ever say, "Hi, I'm Willie"? No, I didn't say that. I could have, but I didn't. We all know that this is Willie because we've been reading this book for this long. So I'm going to read it through one more time. I want you to see if you can pick out where I did STEAL. Where did I add dialogue to develop my character of Willie? Where did I add what Willie is thinking? Where did I add effects that he's having on other characters? Where did I add actions of what Willie is doing to kind of create Willie? And then what Willie or anybody else looks like. And then at the end, we're kind of going to talk about If this is what he's looking like and this is what he's saying, then how do you think he feels about being stolen? Okay, I was sitting at the old nasty house on that awful porch when I noticed something. My leash that Georgina tied on me was loose. I tugged and tugged, and finally I was free. I took off running out towards Carmela's house because I just want to go home. On my way, I passed the grocery store where I saw Mookie on his bicycle. Bark, bark! I barked to him because if I talked, he would totally freak out. Mookie looked at me like I was crazy and immediately grabbed my leash. Darn it, I thought. There goes my freedom. On our way back to the old rotten house, Mookie gave me some more sardines. I just really miss my dog food and perfect backyard. Mookie kept talking about how he thinks that Georgina stole me. Bark, bark, I said again. I was trying to tell him that he was right. Georgina did steal me, but he wasn't listening. When we finally arrived to the old house, I saw Georgina and Toby. She picked me up and stared at me for a while. I must look and smell awful because her face scrunched up and she started coughing. After she put me down, I noticed all the mud on her shirt. If she would have just taken me home, none of this would have happened. As we watched Mookie ride his bike away, I knew this was the last time I would see him. Hopefully, I will get to go home tomorrow. So, how do you think how do you think Willie is feeling right now based off of what I just wrote? He wants to go home. He doesn't like being where he is. He misses Carmela. He misses his dog food, his perfect backyard, and that develops a fictional character. This gives you more of an idea about Willie and how he feels, what he thinks, how he acts. I don't think he was happy to go with Georgina. Now, you might have written a story that was different and you thought he is happy that she went with Georgina, but this is kind of what I was expecting when I asked you on Monday to write a story from Willie's perspective. I wanted you to try and develop a fictional character based off of what you knew in the story. Okay, so for today, for your assignment, right down below, you have a star reading passage. It's not going to take you very long. It's about 5 or 8 questions. It's not too long, but I want you to do your very, very, very best. All the strategies we've been working on in small group, the practicing we've been doing, I want you to remember that when you're going into this. Now, it's not a quiz, but I do need to know where you're at. I call it a quick check. So I cannot help you on the passage below. You have to do it all by yourself because I need to know, am I helping you in small group or am I not helping you in small group? And what do we need more work on? So just do your very best, take your time, and use all the strategies I've taught you. All right, guys, I love y'all so much. Have a great day.